Okay, so AV is in the waiting room, and I want to just kind of go over the rules, if you will. They're super loose. If you've never been on one of the Crafty Chit Chat shows before, thank you guys so much. This is something that I started about a year ago. This is season 2, and I am a television film actor, and I'm also a crafter. And there was a time when I literally wasn't booking a lot of acting work, and I needed a creative outlet, and I started to play around with crafts and DIYs. My mother has always been super crafty and creative. Hey, Christy. My dad was kind of on the, like, he plays instruments, and he was in a choir. Of course, I didn't know all this stuff until within the last 5 years, but I needed that creative outlet. So I started following Dollar Tree, because I had always gone to Dollar Tree, and I would see all these DIYs and crafts and stuff, and I would think, oh my gosh, that's really cool. Or I would see something and I'd think, I can make that. I can make that. I can try and make that. And so I started, and I would share them in the various Facebook groups, and people would say, you should do a channel, you should do a channel, you should do a channel. And so finally I decided to do a channel. And my first, if you go back to the way back, which is not that long ago, but all I had were like shopping haul videos, because I do like to shop. And I started doing that. But from an acting side, I've been very fortunate. I've had roles on The Resident on Fox. I was in HBO's Watchmen. I was on AMC's Halt and Catch Fire. So I've done a lot of really cool stuff from the acting side. And I wouldn't say I'm at the point where I'm ready to give up acting altogether, but I kind of really like what I'm doing now with the YouTube world. So that who knows, it could end up being a full-time gig. But I also work in reality TV and interview a lot of Real Housewives and Top Chefs, and do a lot of stuff with Bravo. And so my experience is crazy and all over the board. And that's kind of what brought me to doing this type of forum, because I felt like that I had some of the experience. Yeah, there I am. Thank you, Cindy. There I am on IMDb. But if, having this forum and being able to work with amazing folks like Courtney from Creative on the Cheap, who is in our audience tonight, and Megan from Glue Guns and Roses, and Sarah from Chic on the Sheep, and people like AV has just been amazing, and people have been extremely generous, and I am so thankful for all of you guys. I don't want to get emotional because I'm drinking bourbon, but it might happen. And just kind of the 101, if you're not familiar with Zoom, you can view in a couple different ways. You can view on speaker view, and you can view it, which would be just whoever's talking, or you could view, hey, Angie, or you can just view in gallery view, which kind of gives us the tiling and kind of the Brady Bunch effect. I will navigate back and forth while we're doing the Q&A, and the recording will kind of show that. So when it gets posted on YouTube, it will kind of show you a bunch of different ways, or a bunch of different views, I guess. And if you want to watch it in one way or another, totally up to you. To do that, all you have to do is go in the upper right-hand corner of the view area and just select gallery view versus speaker view. And then I will spotlight AV when she's on, and myself up in the upper left-hand corner of the screen. So you'll always kind of have a reference of where to look. And we'll do a moderated Q&A. So for the first 20 minutes or so, go ahead and put yourself on mute. And that's just so we don't hear background noise, kids, life stuff happening. And then have your questions ready. AV is super cool. She worked in the film industry. She worked on the art design set. She's a digital host for HGTV's Handmade. She was on Flea Market Flip before she went to HGTV Handmade. She has a blog called AV. I feel like it should be called AV Does It All, but it's AV Does What. And, she does a lot of really, really cool things. So I'm going to let a couple more people in, and then we are going to let AV in. Go ahead and unmute yourself if you are on mute right now, because when we let AV in, I would love to cheers and applause and welcome and scream her name and make her feel like she's Beyonce. So, any questions for me before we jump into it? All right.
Thank you for hosting.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks.
Not good.
Thanks for inviting.
Yes, thank you.
Lynn, I don't know if you want to turn your camera on. Susan, Sarah, Rochelle, and I always butcher your name. Is it Piedad or Piedad? Piedad. If you want to turn your cameras on, feel free to go ahead and do it. But without further
I thought I was on.
You were in the dark the whole time.
Lynn, you're on.
Oh, okay.
It's the other Lynn. Hot mess.
Oh.
Oh, the other Lynn.
Yeah.
The other Lynn. All right, guys, here we go. I'm going to let AV. Oh, wait, we got one more person. There's another Jamie. Who's this?
Oh,
It's probably simple.
simple
I
life.
always say it wrong.
Simple roots.
Yeah, simple live. Yeah.
Hi,
Always wrong.
Jamie, number 2. Jamie Fan 99. Feel free to go ahead and change your name to your channel name if you want to. And all right, guys, without further ado, here is our guest tonight, AV Perkins. I'll let you know when she pops up on the screen. Hello,
Yay!
AV.
Yay!
Woo!
AV, how are you? There you are. I lost you. You like shifted on me, and I didn't know what was going on. How's it going?
Everything's going good.
Woo! Welcome.
You guys are making me blush.
We've got a full house. We're at 25.
Woo.
So, you know, you're bringing it for us. You're bringing it, which is good. All right, everybody that is not on mute right now, go ahead and mute yourselves now, because this is where we start hearing all the background noise and your dogs barking and your kids and cooking dinner and everything else. And then if you're not muted, I will help you out and mute you as well. And we will get started. AV, how are you?
I am doing really, really good. You know,
Yeah.
it's happy
How's this
Friday.
COVID thing? How's this COVID thing treating you?
You know, it has, I was gonna say pros and cons, but that's awkward, right? Because it's a pandemic.
Yeah.
But, you know, I try to always see the glass half full.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm just taking one day at a time with
Okay.
COVID for sure.
I mean, I have to say, like, I feel like your name should be like AV does it all, not just AV does what, because you literally are doing everything. And I think that's super cool because, I mean, you know my background to some degree, and I think it's just really amazing. So you work in the film industry, right?
Mm-hmm.
On like props and set design, correct?
Yep, that is what I went to school for. I went to school for production, and then I got into props and set deck like the last semester before I graduated.
So, like, guys, when you're watching a film or a movie or something and everything is placed in the back, like that was what AV was doing. And then you worked on a really cool, like, famous movie or two and some different things. Tell us about some of those.
Well, it's funny, when the minute you said the background, I looked at your silver robot. I'm like, that's a perfect prop, right? Right now, I don't have set decorating in here because I'm, you know, redoing this office. But
It was
the
$6.
film, yes, my claim to fame, like on IMDb, is that I was a production assistant for Indiana Jones, the Kingdom and the Crystal Skull. Some people ask, like, which one? I'm like, I'm not that old, guys. Not one with the big rock. I was like 2 when it came out. So the latest one.
I was not.
Yes.
I was not.
Well, I don't think I was 2, but you know,
yeah,
for comedic effect, I was 2.
I saw it in the theaters. So yeah. Oh, well, we didn't have to say that. She's like, oh wow.
We don't look it. That's what I'm saying. But it's seasoned. Like sometimes seasoned well, like meat.
Yeah, for sure. Like a fine wine, right? Speaking
Yes.
of, do you have a cocktail this evening?
You know what's funny? I don't.
Okay.
I don't, because things were just.
Anybody else that does? Corey has just finished hers. AV, by the way, are you viewing this right now in speaker view or are you just on gallery view?
I've been alternating, but right now I am speaker view.
I just want to make sure that you can see everybody because we've got some cool folks in the audience here and definitely some people that are excited to be here. So what led you from doing the props and the art side of things to now working on your blog. We're not even talking about like the HGTV or flea market flip. We'll definitely get to that. But what was kind of your transition?
Well, you know, in hindsight, it's kind of funny. I was working on a project once and I had a gaffer. Gaffers are the people who tend to the lights, you know, to explain that to everyone. And he said to me, like, we were just like, you know, talking and I'm being my outgoing self. And he said, you don't belong here. You belong in front of the camera. And I said, well, that's weird for you to tell me that because we're at work still. You can't tell me I shouldn't be at work while we're at work. Right. But that always like, you know, resonated with me. I guess that's kind of like my origin story. But as I was working in the industry, unfortunately, my father had passed away. And, you know, when you're a freelancer, you're in a constant state of employment and unemployment. Yeah. So you can work as much as you want, but if you don't have any, you know, motivation to do so, yeah, you just won't have a job. And I used that to, I guess, my benefit. I did a lot of traveling. I went overseas and I was teaching art in an orphanage. And my plan was to do that anyway, but he passed away before I went. And that was a completely, you know, that changed my experience because I went there, you know, to teach the children art. And, you know, it's an orphanage and just losing a parent, it was really like, I call it my eat, pray, love trip. You know, I was in Ghana, then I went to London and I went to Paris and nothing like the movie happened. Like I did not fall in love with a good looking stranger. I just fell in love with a bunch of children. So I
mean, you know,
that's very,
that could be weird in some places, but
yes, but in a familial love, right?
Yes,
so,
of course.
Yes. So when I came back, you know, it was one of those, okay, the dust has settled, right? I need to, you know, get myself back into being creative. And at that time, I also had a custom candle making business. And yeah, and I would like carve candles for people and I never made another candle again. Like I haven't made a candle since. Oh, wow. I just froze.
Now, would you do those candles that you would see that had like the scrolls and all the just crazy fancy stuff, or
not those, but those are very admirable. But I would like mold it into like ice cream, and I would take orders from people, and they would say what they wanted, and I would literally make like a pillar and then chisel it with like carving tools. Wow. So, but since then I haven't made like a candle in like 8 years, and came back, but I still decided I wanted to, you know, my father, he worked in construction. And he, you know, he taught me how to work with my hands. So I wanted to dedicate something to him, but not in a, oh my gosh, online diary, my dad's dead date, like dear diary, like that's weird, right? So no offense if anyone has ever done that, but that just wasn't my my style.
Yeah, it just wasn't right.
So I started AV Does What because, you know, I was just figuring out my life. And because of all of the things that I just told you all, everyone would always say, what don't you do? You know, like you do everything. What don't you do? And I'm like, well, let's find out. And we've been finding out for the last 8 years.
That's crazy. Now, I know when we chatted earlier, you told me that you were an accidental influencer.
Mm-hmm. Because of that.
Because you literally had this crazy life change and you channeled that energy into the blog, right?
Yeah, into doing that. And what happened was people would, you know, say, oh, AV, I tried this. Like whatever it is that I put out there, I tried this craft or I tried this recipe and I really, really liked it. And then eventually like brands started reaching out to me. And I said, well, this might actually be like a thing, right? So let's keep the party going. Let's keep going with this. But I never, you know, now I think a lot of people have the advantage to say, I want to be an influencer. And they can already see that it can be a viable career. This was just me figuring out my life. So, yeah.
Nice. That's amazing. So I'm curious, who in your family is creative? I know you talked about your dad and that he taught you how to kind of work with the power tools and such, which is definitely creative in itself. But was your mom or grandmother, who else was creative in the family?
My mother is creative in like a writing kind of way. So she poetry. So I'm like a nice blend of them both. So she writes poetry, short stories, things like that, cooking, that's what she like loves to do. That's where her creativity is. But in terms of like hands and crafting, and my dad would make like little miniatures and, you know, things like that. Anytime it was a project, science project, my mother would say, go talk to your father, right? Like that was that.
Nice.
And then he would take over the project too. He was that parent too.
That's
Yeah.
what dads do. My dad was the same way. So I'm like freaking out. Flea Market Flip, my favorite show ever. I will watch the reruns over and over and over and over and over and get inspired by so much stuff. Tell me about that process. Like, I want to know about the casting. I want to know who to talk to. I need email addresses, like phone numbers. We need it all.
So, what I will say, like, this is kind of like a rule of thumb for like everyone. Put yourself out there. Do not be like scared, because I don't have the bandwidth to seek out every opportunity. Like, there's only 24 hours in the day. I have to respond to emails, and that's 23 of those hours, right? So by Flea Market Flip, like around casting, it might be 2 or 3 years ago, and someone tagged me. They said, no, actually they slid in my DMs and they said, oh, I saw this thing, you know, I saw a casting and you craft, right? And it was a guy. So imagine like guys, not, no offense, but how guys typically describe crafting, right? Like, yeah, you craft, right? Cool. So said you needed a partner. I'm like, okay, let me, you know, I was talking to friends to see if I can, you know, apply for this.
Yeah.
And then someone else came to me, and this person is a producer, but I never knew that. Like, they were just my Facebook friend, and I, you know, we would just talk about random things. But he was a producer, and he said, oh, well, a colleague, well, someone I know, like another producer, and he doesn't produce lifestyle. It was just like something completely different. And he said, well, someone I know is looking for people to do something on HGTV. So I was thinking, I was like, wow, this is great. Maybe it's 2 things, right? What are the odds of it being the same thing? And he described it the same way. He was like, yeah, you craft, right? You do glitter stuff, right? I'm like, yeah, I do glitter stuff. And
that's what we all do.
Yeah.
Glitter stuff, right?
Yeah, so that is how that went. And me and my...
So what is this guy's name?
Oh.
Kidding.
Yeah, I mean, I can give you like, you know, the casting. Like, he has nothing to do with that. I'll share you like, you know, the casting at some point. Yeah. But
great.
Yeah, it's so crazy. We applied. But what was so awesome about it is that, you know, reaching out to DIYers, I learned that we would have been at a disadvantage if I, you know, if the questions were more about compatibility than anything else. Yeah, so
because they want the chemistry on camera. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, they want the chemistry. So I couldn't just go down to my local Home Depot and get one of the guys in the wood shop and say, hey, right? Because they were asking questions like, this was my friend. Like this, well, she still is my friend. So they were asking us like, hey, when did you see like AV stressed? How was that? Like, what? Why would you ask that?
Yeah, because I mean, I guess they want to make sure you don't freak out on camera and start, you know.
Yeah, but it was
throwing stuff around the flea market and going nuts, you know.
Yeah, the questions were very much like what was that show? The Newlywed Show. Do you guys remember that show?
Oh yeah, the Newlywed.
Like yeah, that's how it was.
How funny. That's really cool. And so you filmed. You mentioned when we chatted earlier. I call her the Queen, Lara Spencer.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about Lara, and please tell us that she's a good human being. And
yes. I know sometimes that can be a letdown, but yeah, she is nice. She is tall. Right? Okay. I'm 5'7", and she's like, rest your hey, how you doing? Like, rest your shoulder type of tall.
I didn't realize she was that tall.
Yeah, she's pretty tall. And she, you know, she gives really good suggestions, like as you're working on the projects, and she's really helpful. She's also very professional and not in a cold way, but like we can like, you know, just how we're conversing. He. Okay, guys, you gotta do that takeover, right? And you're like, wait, I thought we were in a conversation. So she's really like aware of what's going on. So that's good. That was very admirable to see. Like, she's the talent, but she's also a producer, and she, you know,
and she
pulls
wears
her in
all the
those
hats.
roles. Yes.
Yeah, I love it when you're watching it and she goes shopping on her own. Like, she'll find something, she'll be like, I need to buy that.
Yeah.
So somebody made a comment that that they missed the show, and I want to make sure that they know you can find it on demand on HGTV on demand, and also on GAC on demand. And then occasionally HGTV will also just re-air it. So if you happen to have a DVR, put in Flea Market Flip and just set it to record all episodes, and it'll grab them for you. And then when it's a rainy day, you can just binge on Flea Market Flip like I do. Also,
it is season 12, either episode 12 or episode 13. But I know with GAC, it might, let me look at my phone really quickly. I know GAC might play, like, they have a different timetable. But on HGTV, it is season 12, episode 12. But if you look up the title, like Bring on the Bling, that's the name of our episode.
Bring on the bling. Perfect. So, so you went from Flea Market Flip, and how long? You have the funniest story about when you got like the HGTV, the calling. Tell me about. Well, don't tell me. Tell everybody about it, because I think it's hilarious.
So for Handmade, I still have no idea how they found me, and I feel like I should ask them, because I'm coming up on a year now. On the 10th, it'll be a year with Handmade. But I've always like admired Handmade from their like inception. I think it started maybe like 8 or 9 years ago. So right as I was starting my own blog, right? So I would always watch. I'm like, one day I'm gonna be on there, right? So literally like a kid, like I'm gonna be on there one day. And I was doing an activation. I live in New York, and I was doing an activation upstate. So I was doing like a wood burning for
Utica, right?
Excuse me?
Utica? Was that where you were?
I was going to Utica, but I live in Brooklyn. So for those of you who know New York, that's literally like driving to Mars.
Yeah.
So I was driving, and I, randomly I got like the notification. I wasn't texting and driving, guys, but it was right there, like on the dashboard, and it said, HGTV Handmade now following you. Wait a minute. So I need to pull over. Like, yeah, pull over, what's going on? And so I was like, okay, this is my time. They're following me, so I'm going to pitch myself in the DM. So I'm like, hey, hey everyone.
That sounds so funny, like pitch yourself in the DM.
Yes, like that was my plan. I'm like, all right, so they're already following me. We're gonna build up this rapport, and then it's gonna be my time. And then I, introduced myself, and then the message back was, did you get our email? Wait, what? There's more to this. And yes, there was an email, but Google tried to foil my life and put it in the spam folder, and it was there for like a week or two.
So my agent, I had my agent will do television, film, but then she also gets involved in like QVC and stuff like that. And we have a network that's based here in Atlanta, that's called JTV. It's a jewelry television network. And I had 2 callbacks for them, like 2. And then I had a 3rd callback where I was like, I'm in, like on air test, the whole thing. And I didn't get it. And I literally broke down crying to my agent, who was also like my mom. And she told me that when you are this close to reaching your dream, the devil's going to work twice as hard to try and foil your dream. And that was the devil trying to get that email.
Yeah, man. Double time. And it's funny, I have a story similar to that. I applied for Making It.
Oh, yeah, on NBC, right?
Yeah. The first time I was turned down like immediately because of Flea Market Flip.
Okay. The
airing times were too close together. And that's a thing if you're doing unscripted television, they kind of want to space it out, especially because it was another competition show. Yeah. So, and then the second time I made it to like the third round, and COVID happened. so, and then we're like, well, we're
Yeah.
good. I'm like, okay, that's cool.
I know somebody else that literally had the same exact, she's a very well-known YouTuber, and she had the same exact kind of experience where she was so close and then COVID happened. But my hope is that they remember everybody, and when they start filming again, it'll be, whenever from now, and they'll remember folks like you. So you got the email, and did it say like, come join us, be a digital host, or was it an audition? I can't even talk, I'm so excited. Or
it wasn't an audition, but it was like, okay, we're interested in filming a couple of videos, and then maybe we know you do upcycling, and I love finding trash and flipping it. That tends to flip. Yeah, you guys get it, right? and then we were gonna do a video with Crafty Lumberjacks as well.
Oh, yeah, they were guests last season.
Yes, and ironically, I had just met them maybe that summer. So we started having communication in the fall. No, not the fall, like maybe towards like the end of whatever year was the year before, the end of 2019. That's when we first started communication. Then I started filming with them on the 2020. But I'd met Crafties like the summer of 2019.
Nice. That's very, very
so
cool.
we were gonna all film together. But when it came up, we just filmed our own projects, and then from there, then the pandemic started, and then I just started continuing with them from that.
That I call it the damn-denic. The damn-denic. So we're at the half-hour point, and I want to make sure that we have plenty of time for folks to ask questions. So if you guys have questions, I've got it in gallery view right now. Just kind of wave your hand, and I will unmute you. Okay, we're gonna have to do this are you guys waving, or do you have questions? Okay, looks like questions. Annie, I saw your hand first, so go ahead and unmute yourself, and then I think Happily Unorthodox, you were next, okay?
Hi, AV. How are you doing? This is so.
Hey, what's up?
Yay! I love the fact that you come from a similar background from me, but I'm in the independent side. So not only did I do acting, but I also did costume and set design. It's like you got to do everything when there's no budget. But how do you feel now? Like it's hard from going from being on set to being in this solitary world now where you're just producing your own videos on your own. How do you, how have you taken that transition, from having crew people around and other people around, and now it's like, as we're all producing our own videos here. For a lot of us that are YouTubers, we're used to being on our own. But if you've worked on a production set, how have you been able to like adapt to that change?
Well, I mean, there are times I miss it, but I've been able to fortunately be on set as the talent. And the first time I was able to do that, because I did a commercial, I said, I can never go back to art department, right? Like my body couldn't take it. Art department is a different kind of like stress on your body. And, I was more in my 20s when I was doing it. And I was like, I'll do this forever. No, you won't. No, you won't. So yeah, the hours, it's a different type of feeling, but I do love the excitement. I love the lights. I love, the thrill of production, being in films, being made, of the creativity. And then even, the characters, because I feel like every department has their own characteristics. So I love gaffers. Like they're like my favorite people. So it's very fun. Makeup, everyone.
Yeah, I had a friend that is working on one of the Marvel movies, and just kind of helped out for a day, not even on set, just in the warehouse. And the amount of like just cataloging and documentation and setting up for the next scene, and I was blown away. And then I would go in there as an actor, and I was a little unprofessional at the very beginning, but I've learned. But I would go in there and I'd go, oh, that's a cute robot.
Oh, and touch it.
And you move it that much, and then the prop person comes out and they're like,
it would, like that. So many memories.
I did it once.
Or even like with food on set, and people just come, like camera just eats the grapes, and we're like, no, those grapes are important. Those grapes tell a story.
You ate the grape. All right, happily unorthodox. I believe your name is Joy, if I remember right. Go for it.
Hello, so happy to be with you, Jamie and AV. I love AV. I'm a huge fan of her and her work and her endeavors. So my question is, what has been your greatest, it's clear that you make your dreams reality. So what are you most proud of, and what is the next dream you want to conquer?
Okay. I have to say Flea Market Flip is the most proud I've been in this part of my career, right? Because I'm like Forrest Gump at this point. So this part is definitely because personally, I was going through so much personally, you know, where we had 3 shoot days, and like the day, like I think out of 2 of those 3, I cried that morning, right? Just because just a lot was going on. And I don't look it. And I'm like, I look great, right? I look great. I did my own makeup and everything. I'm like, yes, right? So, and then we won, of course, right? So that's always a plus. So it's
Spoiler for those of you that didn't see it.
Oh yeah, sorry guys. But it's great. It's entertaining, right? I give you great TV. But yeah, that was definitely one of my most proudest moments because, you know, the morning of, because of the stress of everything that I was going through, I had to give myself like a pep talk in the mirror, like Amber, spoiler alert again, that is what the A in AV stands for. So when I'm, you know, just like how your mom speaks to you seriously, like I spoke to myself like, Amber, if you don't get yourself together, you are going to lose. Do you want to lose? No, you don't. And then that mom talk that I gave myself worked.
I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. I don't remember who else had their hands up. So, Mug Life. Unmute.
Okay, unmute. I got this. I'm a pro, Jamie. I just want to say I love you, AV. I actually found you a few months ago when I was looking for wood burning tutorials.
Cool.
And you literally started talking, and then you mentioned like you taught wood burning, and I was just like, no duh, like no wonder I feel like I know what I'm doing with you. Okay. So that was, I love a lot of your just, I feel like your creative process. I feel like you said this in maybe one of your videos. Did you have like an art background or art school?
I went to school for film production, but my minor was art.
Okay.
And
I've
always been artistic. Sorry, but like I've always been artistic. Like when I was a kid, I wanted to be an actress. I went to a performing arts middle school. So like I know Les Mis
in your blood,
like the back of my hand. So it's always been yes.
So my question is, what is your artistic process when you're making or planning your videos for your blog, your Instagram, your YouTube? Like, do you kind of sketch out ideas, or are you kind of just, it's random? Because I kind of go over everything. I'm not very niche.
Mm-hmm.
I do what inspires me, and I love just being creative. So I just kind of was wondering, since your videos are, I feel like, encompassing, you do a lot.
Yeah, well, that's part of the shtick, right? AV does what? So people are used to just like the personality, like, what are you making today? You know, we're here to see you. So that's part of that is a part of it. But in terms of like structuring an actual video, what I would do is, okay, if I know the steps of this project, I have to like write those out. So it makes it easier to make a blog post. And I write out like my intros and my outros, and I have to batch those together. So there may be a day where I'm doing 2 or 3 projects, right? And I'm just, and I don't have my makeup on because I'm just filming my hands. And then I can go back and do intros and outros all day for those other videos because, you know, I put the razzle on. So
change your shirt.
Yeah. New day, new me, right?
If you've seen some of my videos, y'all know I got paint under my nails.
Mm-hmm.
I've burned myself with a glue gun 3 times. I've got, so I need to have a hand model or something, I guess, or just take better care of them. Who else has a question? I saw a couple hands. Artsy Cupcake, and then DIY with Nadia. I saw you next.
All right. First of all, you are so talented, and I'm just like so excited to be hanging out with you guys. You guys are awesome. So I really love flips, and I love crafts and DIYs. And I'm curious what your all-time favorite project that you've ever done would be. I know that's going to be hard, but
oh my gosh, my favorite project. Okay, it was a project that I worked on with me and my neighbor, and now it needs to be like renewed. But I have a backyard, and literally there's some weeds, and I think they're like a special version of weeds because they're like bamboo. Like the Discovery Channel needs to come and check these out. So, but it made the backyard unusable for many years. Me and my neighbor, we got pallets. And then of course, this is when the pallets were all the rage, but pallets and salvage wood and built like a deck in the backyard. The only thing what we did not do is that we did not lay down like a mesh between the ground and the pallets, but we thought, you know, it's pallets, it's salvage wood. They wouldn't try to pop through, and they try because they are mutants. But that has been my
They're like
favorite.
Brooklyn strong. They're like, we're doing it.
Yeah, so we're gonna redo that sooner than later, but that has definitely been my favorite DIY because it just allowed me to use my backyard. I love watching movies outside, so it gave me like, you know, the oasis in Brooklyn.
Nice. Did you do that originally for the blog, or would you, when you redo it, will you do it for the blog?
I mean, yeah. At this point now, everything is content, right? So, yeah, most likely that would be whenever that we manage to do that. But that is not necessarily on the horizon. But now that I'm saying it, I guess you guys will hold me accountable.
Yeah, so. It's also buried under how much snow right now? Do you have?
Oh yeah.
How much snow is still around?
I'm not quite sure because when it's cold, I don't like going outside.
Okay, fair enough.
I just wait for it to melt.
Yeah.
Like, do your thing, son.
That means we'll see you in June.
Yeah.
Nadia, you're next.
Well, it is so lovely to meet you. You're so talented, and obviously you do everything with a smile. But is there something that you kind of just like, oh, I gotta do this? Like those projects that you kind of dread, you know?
Well, not necessarily dread, but I know like when I'm filming, I have to bring the energy. So that has to, even though I'm an extrovert, you still have to unearth it to give the best energy, because if you're speaking just like normally, like, you know, I'm just speaking to you like this, I don't sound like I'm sad, but when that video gets played and whenever people see that part, it's going to look like I had a dip in energy, right?
You gotta smile when you do it, right?
Yeah, so I have to make sure I bring my energy when I'm filming. So that is the most challenging part, I should say. Filming can be, it's fun.
I want to know how you and Jamie met.
Instagram.
Yeah, the crafty lumberjacks. I reached out to some old guests from season 1, and I was like, I'd love some referrals for season 2, and they gave me AV, and I stalked her and reached out to her and basically was like, let's do this.
Awesome.
Yeah. Who is next? Corey, I saw your hand, and if I'm skipping over anybody, just jump in and like unmute yourself and say, you skipped me. Corey, you're still there. You go.
Thank you. Hi. So I've been doing YouTube for about 6 months, and I am now, just over the holidays, I started a blog, and it was painful trying to get it up and running because I'm not that tech savvy. So I finally hired somebody that got me started. And now I've got to start producing content. And I'm just wondering, what would you recommend for someone to focus on when they are starting a brand new blog? I have one post out there right now. So I'm trying to get myself organized because I also work full time. So trying to find the time and to schedule it. And so how frequently should I be posting? And what should my main focus be?
It's a great question.
Now, when you say your main focus in terms of, you speaking in terms of social platforms or your content, what you should focus on?
Well, you know what? It could be any of the above because I mentioned I work full time, and I've been doing my YouTube channel now. I only post one video a week because that's all I can handle. But now I'm trying to do Instagram and I'm trying to figure out Pinterest and I've got my blog and I'm like, I don't really know where to put my focus. And I want to try to learn to work smarter and not harder because I have a limited amount of time to dedicate to all of these different things. So would love some pointers on anything that comes to mind that you'd like to share.
No problem. I see it like exercise, right? It's like a muscle. So if you're like, hey, new year, new me, you don't just go out and start running a marathon. Like you don't do that, right? Because you hurt yourself. So the same thing with same thing with all of this. So you want to start getting good at one. So just pick one. What I like to do, even if a new platform comes out, I do like to secure my name on it, even if I don't plan on using it. I don't use TikTok that often, but AV does what is on TikTok. So just in case, I don't want to have to be the brand that has to buy my name back from someone, right? So I have those, but in different years, I focused on different platforms. And that is more so how I feel. I'm very in touch with, I'm a Cancer. I'm in touch with my feelings. So I want to, it's all about my self-care. I'm not going to, run myself ragged for a blog post or a video. Absolutely not. That's not it for me. But for you also should not run yourself ragged, but you want to start with your blog, right? And start posting consistently and then choose one social platform. Just whichever one. I can't tell you which one you should use because everyone has different success with different platforms. So because there's people who are on Pinterest who are killing it, right? And there are people who are on Instagram and it's just amazing. And sometimes it's not the same person. So, you can test out, you can dabble in the different platforms and see which one that you personally like and you're getting some kind of return on. I just started using Clubhouse and I love it. So you just dabble. Yeah, don't worry about
another one. Oh no,
don't worry about it yet.
I'm writing it down so I can go secure my name on it. Corey, I'm gonna add on to that too. Somebody gave me the almost identical advice, and one thing that I learned that did help me out a lot is that you can link your Instagram and your Facebook group page to the same. So when you post on Instagram, it'll automatically post it in your group on Facebook. So that helped me kind of have 2 for 1 in some of them. And Twitter is pretty easy because it's just a link that you just post into the tweet. And a lot of times I'll copy and paste the same hashtags and such that I may put in my Instagram post and just copy and paste over. So for what it's worth. Paper Owl, you had a question. I believe you had your hand up.
One more thing I want to add to that. Although, because even though we say, hey, pick one, and then we just gave you a whole bunch of options to pick all of them, to make this worse, Pinterest is really I don't use Pinterest as often as I should, but that's my plan for this year, but Pinterest is a good driver to your site.
Okay.
It drives traffic. And you can, if you want to, you can pin your Instagram posts. And if you were doing TikTok, you can pin those as well. So, Pinterest is positioning themselves like, hey, we're not social media. We're like Google and YouTube. We are content finders and, like that curation.
And is one post a week on the blog sufficient? Or do I need to be posting more than that?
You should be consistent. So whatever that you can manage. If you just put out one post a day, I'm not going to tell you to put 3 more out this week.
Right.
No, I couldn't do that in good faith. So start doing it once a week for a month or 2. When you're like, hey, I'm getting a rhythm to this, then you can level up and do that. But then there's some sites now that have changed where there's these not the Wall Street Journal, but some of these other news type sites, they might post even less on their sites, but it's really lengthy. So there's different,
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah, of course. Paper Owl.
Hi, my name is Amber.
Hot mess.
As well.
Hey.
Hi. My name is Amber as well. I just started a YouTube channel recently. Because you do so many things, where do you find your inspiration? Is it usually something that like you think of on your own? Do you find it different places? How do you try and channel that and narrow it down?
I try to get inspiration from everywhere. Like I've trained my mind to see the smallest of things as inspiration. But before I got to that point, I would love, things that weren't in my field. So even listening to music, like sad music makes me get more creative. Like sad, like emo music, not like sad. So like, like Evanescence, like I have a whole.
So you're not like Celine Dioning out and like, crying in the corner. And...
Oh yeah, like Linkin Park, turn it up. Okay. So that's for me. But then there's also like art museums and just seeing how people apply color, and you can just look for the inspiration anywhere. Just like how, you can find networking anywhere. Sometimes people think, oh, I have to go to this event to network, and it's just like, no, you just have to talk to people. That's usually how it goes. So with the inspiration, yeah.
Nice.
Explore different art mediums just so you can see things outside of DIY. Like watch a really well-produced movie, right? Listen to music and all of that. Like I'm a true artist, so it's all of it kind of like comes together. Listen to a good TED Talk. Yeah.
Awesome. Love that.
And where are you based? Because it's still light outside and I'm jealous.
I'm in Colorado.
Yeah. Oh, we have a lot of people from Colorado on tonight. We have like 3 or 4.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
It's like
Hot Mess and Hot Glue. Greatest name ever. You are next. You better secure that name on all platforms.
I was so excited actually when I typed it in like a search to see if anyone else had it. And I was like, no. Oh, because it's me. It's just, I'm a hot mess, but I love hot glue. Anyway, enough about that. My original question was actually very similar to the previous question. So I guess my follow-up to it would be, being that I guess I'm kind of a sheltered newbie to a lot of things, how do you handle rejection and negativity being tossed your way and still being able to just, without being fake about it, just being able to put your big girl panties on and keep on going?
Yeah, that's hard.
It sounds redundant to say I just keep going, because I know I've experienced way more wins than losses. So just like statistically, you have to get a loss. And sometimes it's not right now, right? And you just have to keep going. And I know also I have to keep going because I have to pay bills. So that is an inspiration, And I'm also fearless in terms of like putting myself out there. So just, like your batting average, if you keep batting, your wins are going to be higher than your losses. And then I think just that ratio keeps me like, okay, well, you didn't get it, because there's castings that I've applied for and haven't gotten it, right?
Right.
There's some that I have. You just keep going.
I love that. Lumber Mill, I saw your hand up, and then Melissa, you'll be next, and Kiki, and anybody else. I'll probably forget after Kiki, so we'll pause it there. Lumber Mill.
I'm Sandy.
Hey, I know, I saw you waving. Hey, Sandy.
You are so positive. I love that. And I just feel like you bring it into your life. And I love that you're inspiring, like after the death of your father, you just dug deep and you move on, and not move on, but you live through it. And I just love that. My question is staying focused. It's a lot about, like, I like your workflow. You were saying like you were doing your points, like, okay, I'm going to write this down and I'm going to script it out and I'm going to do my intros. I'm going to batch. And I know how creative you are. Like I'm the same. I could be building a deck one day and I could be wood burning the next, and I could be drawing in the morning with you. And yeah, I'm all over the map, and I just like, I don't know if that's a bad thing or a good, like, I know I should niche down and I should really focus, but I get squirrel.
So, okay. I feel
Sparkle
your
glitter.
pain. I definitely feel your pain. And I tell myself, like, I generate ideas like, 10 a minute. And I know that I can do anything, but not everything. So there's some ideas that people are like, yeah, you should do that. And then of course, there are the people who give suggestions, right? That their ideas like semi good. It just needs like a little, a polishing up. But I still don't have time to do that, right? Like people think I should just be a comedian. I'm like, I make crafts. I have to do it at the same time because that's the only way it's going to work. But in terms of like my niche, I had a similar problem before I like really like rebranded, because it was like AV does what? And it became like a thought of confusion for people. Where it's like, yeah, you do everything. But it's like, I needed to have some clarity so people can pay me, right? So it has to make sense for people to pay me where, it's some kind of, hey, I get it. So that's why I doubled down into upcycling, because that's what I really like. And upcycling, it's broad enough where I can kind of like cheat and say, hey, we're gonna embroider this sweater because we're upcycling it because it has a patch that needs to be covered. So I get to do the other crafts as well. So if you're doing sewing and you want to do like a lot of things, maybe like mixed media, but you should have like a focus that you can zero in on. And then also in terms of like branding, I thought about how did I want people to feel when they experienced me and what I produced. So I made like a whole board with like my brand colors and actual like adjectives that I want people to feel. And I wanted people to feel encouraged, nostalgic, fun, because there's some crafts that are really like serious, right?
Yeah.
Fine art, some sort, right? those tend to be a little bit more serious, but I wanted it to feel approachable. Like, yeah, we can do a whole bunch of power tools and things like that, but a lot of people don't want to do that. So I just wanted to all be like, hey, I can do that. Yeah, that's cool.
That's cool.
You want to think about how you want people to feel after they consume your content. And that'll help guide what you're supposed to do as well.
That is great advice, because if I'm all over the map, I'm fine with that, but my audience doesn't have that clarity. That gives me a lot of path forward. Thank you.
Yeah.
Love that. Who did I say was next? Melissa, because I told you I'd forget.
I'm totally fanning girly now. I'm trying to like be cool about it, but I love you guys. But this is kind of like a follow-up, I guess, kind of to what other people were asking. When you're creating content, when you're thinking about your ideas and what you're going to do next, do you do things that you think other people are going to watch, or do you do the things that you want to do that I don't know how to explain it, that other people are going to want to watch? Because I know there's a few creators that do the things that everybody wants to watch, whether it's something that they want to do or not, but they do it to get the views. So when you're, to stay true to yourself, do you do things that you want to do regardless of whether you think others are going to want to watch it, or do you kind of make sure you do things that they're going to want to watch? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. I try to find like a balance, right? Because it's been 8 years and this has grown bigger than me. So it's more than, I've become a service provider in a sense, right? So there's people who want to do certain things, and I'm like, I'm not going to do something where I'm like, oh my God, I hate this, right? Not like that. But if everybody wants to see, I've never done a slime video, but like if everybody wants to see slime, try slime. And I tried to do slime. Fun fact, I tried to do slime and I was terrible at it. I have to have my niece teach me. So there's that. But for instance, like speaking of like nieces, I have 3 nieces and a nephew. My nieces want to be on videos with me, right?
Okay.
I am skeptical because I'm very protective of them, and I don't have the resources like Liam Nielsen to hunt people down, right? If they made me do a meme. So, that is something like, okay, I may not want to do that as of yet, but when I posted them before, it would get like, really good engagement. Now I'm like, maybe wait till they get older. So, you have your boundaries.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So I find a blend of what's trending and what I truly want to do.
Nice.
Okay.
So we've got like 5 minutes left, but I am going to allow us to go a little bit over if you are okay with it, AV.
I love you guys. I love talking to people.
Great energy. And I know that Courtney has her hand up. Kiki is going to be next. But I did want to introduce a couple people that are some other fellow crafting celebs, including Courtney from Creative on the Cheap, who was here last week. And then we have somebody that's been hiding, and I'm totally going to bust her. Jamie fan, if you would turn on your camera if you want to. If not, just say hello. But it's Megan from Glue Guns and Roses. All right. Thank you, guys. Kiki, go for it. I'll turn.
Hi, Avi. I just wanted to ask you let me start over. How do you make a strategy just to tackle everything that you do in time to post in your blog, on your YouTube, and make other mainstream content that you make? How do you tackle all of that? And what's your strategy just to tackle all of that?
So right now I'm revamping said strategy because I believe, things that we speak over ourselves, that you can manifest that, right? I believe life and death is in the power of the tongue. And I always used to say, I am not organized, right? And, lo and behold, you kind of manifest those things. So this year I got ClickUp. It is a project management tool just to try to lay things out because I have so many ideas. So I looked at a bunch of tutorials and how to figure that out. So right now I'm using a project management tool to list out my ideas, which websites, because I want to grow and I need to put those systems in place so I can hire people. You can't hire someone you don't know what to give them because then that's just free money. And I don't have that to give. So I need to make the systems and know how those systems work. So I'm starting to do that with a project management tool.
I love what you just said too about the power of the tongue, because I think I want to reclaim something that I said to you earlier today, and you may know what it is. When we were talking about the HGTV thing, and I made a statement that maybe I wasn't quite ready or whatever, and I'm going to take that back.
Take it back
because I'm going to be ready for it when it's presented. And I'm doing the work and doing what I need to do, much like an actor. You study your script, you go to school, you're working on a teleprompter, you're doing whatever. So I'm claiming it right back, and then I'm going to pass it to Courtney because she had her question.
Oh, geez. Okay, there. Can you hear me? Okay. I don't know if you remember. I think I mentioned last week I met you at Creativation. That's where I met her last year. Okay, so my question to you is this: what is something you want to do that maybe you're not going to put on your blog or not put on your Instagram? Just some kind of for me, I'm looking at laser printers right now because I want to start cutting out things just for me, not to put on my channel. But what's something that you want to do that you may not put out there for the public to see?
What's funny? Because when I mentioned earlier, everything is content, because it holds me accountable to do things. So I purchased an iPad to practice digital illustration. Okay. And, because you're working and doing all of these things, maybe, life gets in the way. So I started a club on Clubhouse just to do doodles, right? It was really to practice, my digital illustration. And now it's the largest craft and DIY club on the app. It's the first and the largest, but it was literally just to keep myself accountable. Same thing. I started a book club within that same club because I received a book from, and I remember I mentioned about networking is just talking to people. So I met an investor from Schmidt's Naturals, the deodorant, and she sent me her book. And I'm like, when am I going to have time to read this book? Well, let's all read this book because that's how it is. But so that part is content, but I am planning on doing some craft time with my nieces and nephew. So that won't be content. I'm sending them a bag of pom-poms, and I know my sister-in-law is going to be irate, but it's gonna be okay.
That's amazing. I love that. Speaking of books, you mentioned a book earlier today that I think is super valuable that everybody needs to know about. Tell us about that one.
Yes, we were talking about influencer and influencing. There's a book titled Influencer by Brittany Hennessey. I love her to pieces. I've got a chance to know her in real life now, but she was the director of influencer marketing at Hearst. And that's Marie Claire, HGTV magazine, all of those. And she was booking the influencers. And then she left that position to create like influencer education for influencers. And she helped me negotiate my best brand deal ever. And it was not even like an in-depth help. It was just like a little sprinkle of help. And it was the highest one I've ever done. Ever, guys.
Amazing. I saw like everybody writing it down. So that's
yeah.
Incredible. Who else had a question? Because we are going to end this at like a respectable time. But anybody else have any questions? I feel like I could go on all night. You're so easy to talk to, really.
Me too. I can do this.
Yeah, it's just a lot of fun. I am curious. I know that when we were chatting earlier, you were talking about some of the things that keep you motivated. We were talking about the book, Influencer, and then there was something else that we were. I just had a brain. And we're talking about just ways you keep yourself motivated, and music. That's what it was. Music was something. Now, you mentioned sad songs that help you create, but like if you're really like, I listen to music all the time. I have to edit out my music because my music is really bad. What kind of music do you listen to?
I mean, I listen to all kinds of music, and they all have different like purposes in my life. I'm a big hip hop fan. Like if you see my shirt, it says Run DIY, like Run DMC. Yeah. But I made it myself. So
nice. On your Cricut?
Yes. What's my Cricut? Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Amazing.
So yeah, I love hip hop, and I also I love when I was a kid, I loved Guns N' Roses. Like I was into rock, really, really heavy. And listening to like the emo music helps me get to be really, really creative. And then I listen to upbeat music when I'm getting ready to
like get on
record.
camera.
Yeah, when I'm about to record and get on camera, I listen to a lot of bravado type of music. So some like old Kanye, where I just need to be like extra outrageous, right? It brings it up. I also listen to Hamilton on repeat because I'm addicted to that soundtrack.
That's such a good soundtrack. I love the collaboration that Lynn did with Ben Platt. Have you heard that one?
Wait, what?
You know Ben Platt from Dear Evan Hansen?
No.
And Lin-Manuel from Hamilton.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's amazing. I will send you a link after this.
Yes, please do.
Because
I have so many clips of me singing Wait For It. Like that was its own like video.
If you ever get to Atlanta and we're out of this nonsense, there's a Hamilton sing-along group that I go to, and literally it's sheet music and get up on the stage and just have fun. They don't care if you can hold a tune or not. It is a blast. And we get drunk, so it's always fun.
I love it. Actually, it's so funny. One of my good friends is named Jamie, and she lives in Atlanta.
Oh, fun.
I mentioned that worked on the Marvel films. Like,
How cool. Well, then it seems like we're just going to be hanging out soon. And then hopefully I'll be traveling again soon, because I come to New York all the time because I'm always over at 30 Rock. So out of all the social media platforms that you're on and that you're doing, what would you say is your biggest revenue stream? Like not the amount, of course, but like, do you make more money from your blog? Do you make more from HGTV? Like, what would you say your primary sources?
The HGTV, because that's like a little bit more consistent, but as of like 2020, I've been doing more speaking engagements and more like conferences. I'm emceeing. I'm one of the MCs for Creativation this year.
Yes.
Like
Tell us about Creativation, because I know that a lot of people told me all these great things about it last year and I missed it. And now it's all virtual?
Yes, it's going to be virtual March 15th. Last year, I was able to I did a panel about video, another one about this being in the industry. And I also did like making takes for Beacon. And that's where I met you, Courtney. I remember. So yeah, it was a really great experience. Met people, you know, different networking and with brands. And it's like a conference mixed with like a trade show. Like that's how it's been. Right. And now they're leaning in more into the education, influencer education, content creation, education, and as well as the brands and the retailers getting to that point as well. So with it being virtual this year, we're just leveling it all up, and then I'll be there. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. And then every other Saturday, you are doing something called Crafter Party. Is that right? Do I have the name right?
So the Crafter Party, it's like, we're almost like a cult, but not, but it's growing so fast. So there is this app called Clubhouse. Currently it's invite only, but it's available on iOS. I use my iPad for it. So you can use your iPad or your iPhone. You can go and reserve your name. And if there's someone in your contacts, they can invite you in. Essentially, it's like a whole virtual conference. Like people just talk, network. Depending on which rooms you're going into, it can just be nonsense. But here at the Crafter Party, when I joined the app, I didn't see too many like craft spaces. I saw Britt from Brit & Co. She was there, but she's also an investor. So, because the app started off for investors and VCs and people in tech. So with that, I created the Crafter Party and I started, you know, we would have weekly chats, just discussing different ways to build our creative confidence. And I wanted to engage more with people on the app. So I started doing doodle rooms. Like it's like a 20-minute craft break. You come and I give you a prompt and you doodle for 20 minutes and you go about your day. You can share a win. You can just listen to my chill playlist and, you know, that's cool. Then that started growing. And I started doing that twice a day, Sunday through Friday. And then every other Saturday now we have crafts, check-ins, and cocktails. So we just come chat just like this. And, you know, we just chat about our week. But now the club has over 5,000 members in it.
Wow.
In like 2 months.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. You're getting lots of like hearts and thumbs ups and stuff.
Yeah, it's really been cool. Really cool. And then there is who's in the group, because like I can see, you know, people who like request. So it's like some of like the OGs, like Britt is in the group, like, oh my God, Britt from Brit & Co. Like, you know, and Amber from Damask Love, and a bunch of like others that I like admire in this crafty space.
I like that you use the term OGs, because that's what I call my long-term subscribers as well. So I'm like, if you're my OG, and I get so many people that are like, what's an OG? And I'm like, it's just a good friend. It's just an old time friend. You know? I tell everybody that. All right, guys, we are going to wrap it up. If you don't have any additional questions for AV, this was a blast. Before we go, though, we are going to do a virtual selfie. And I encourage you to share it on social media and make sure that, you know, you tag everybody in it. And I'm going to do, well, real quick, I'm going to do a screenshot and get everybody in this that I can post. So smile. And then I'm going to take myself off of Spotlight. And AV, you are still on Spotlight. And I'm switching my view into speaker view. You should probably do this as well. Somebody's not on mute. And I am going to put you in speaker view now. So you are main on the screen. AV, if anybody else wants a selfie with AV, go ahead and do the same. Put your computer in speaker view and smile. And at the count of 3, take your camera or your smartphone, turn your back to the thing and just say, hi, cheers, 1, 2, 3. It's like the most awkward selfie ever. Did everybody get it? All right, I am back in the gallery view again. AV, this was an absolute pleasure.
Yes.
Thank you so, so much. Share all of your social, all of your blog information so everybody can follow you if they're not already doing that, and they can reach out and connect. Obviously, are you on all of the platforms as
yes.
AV Does What? Perfect.
I am everywhere at AV Does What.
Amazing.
Also, like I mentioned with the Crafty Party, that is my favorite platform as of late. If you are not on Clubhouse and you're not able to get on there, no worries. I send recaps of our creative chats. So if you go to thecrafterparty.club,
okay, I
email out those recaps. We have some really good content in there. Last week we discussed we discussed craft trends 2021. I've had like professional organizers come in to discuss about, making a proper space for your work from home environment, nice. Video trends. So I really try to give you that virtual conference experience every week.
That's amazing. I forgot to do one thing. And I'm glad that I remembered, because somebody probably would have emailed me about it. I didn't do our giveaway. So the giveaway is going to be a mystery box, but not in like the Courtney Creative on the Cheap way. It's going to be like some like fun stuff from Dollar Tree. And it's going to come from my personal stash, because I got a lot of stuff. And I am putting together a huge, a affordable mailable size box that I'm going to send to one of our lucky folks here. And AV, I would like for you to either close your eyes or just randomly pick someone. It's totally up to you. You could put it in gallery view and close your eyes and then just go on the screen. Totally you. And if she doesn't pick you, don't send her bad emails.
All right. Jamie, tell me where to stop.
Stop.
That is it's on Courtney.
Courtney?
Yeah.
Courtney, you're on mute. Are you just so happy?
I was gonna say, I don't want to, take it away from someone else. So if you want to redo, if there's somebody who
are you gifting it to somebody?
I will gift it, because trust me, I've got tons of stuff. So.
Okay, and I'm gonna let AV. She's already in motion. AV, I'm gonna just keep you on here for like 5 more minutes doing that, because I think it's all right. Stop.
Happily unorthodox.
All right, Joy. So Joy, send me an email, and I will and give me your home address, and then I promise within the next week or so, and it may be so, that I'll send you a box of goodies. And if there's something specific that you've been really looking for at Dollar Tree, let me know, because I do have really, really good Dollar Trees, and I might be able to hook you up.
Oh my God, thank you. Yay.
All right, very, very cool. All right, you guys, well, we are done for this evening. We've got somebody trying to join now. I guess they thought we were in a different time zone, so we're not going to let them. But AV, it was an absolute pleasure. It really was.
Thank you so much for having me. Like I mentioned, if anyone has any questions, you can shout me a holler in the DMs on Instagram.
Nice.
All right.
All right, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Feel free to mute yourself and say bye.
Bye.
Farewell.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Oh, and tag me to your pictures, because I don't have one.
Oh, good.
I did a screenshot for the whole thing, so you'll get it. I'll send that to you.
Have a great weekend. Guys.
Bye, everybody.
It was nice meeting
Bye,
you.
Jamie.
Bye.
Bye, Katie.
Thank
Bye,
you.
Bye, Nadia.
Bye.
See you guys later.
See you soon.